you gotta let yourself be a fan. Like
I know.
sometimes having there's nothing wrong with having high expectations. There
Look,
isn't.
the DCEU has been like that ex-girlfriend that you wanted a great relationship, you wanted to be with her forever, and then she started off kind of strong, and then she made some moves that kind of caused you to wonder a little bit. Then she broke your heart and you said, I'm done with you forever. Then she came back into your life 4 years later in 2021 and said, give me a second chance. And I gave her a second chance. Look, Ryan, I know for the last couple of videos, I've pretty much been talking a lot of shit about the Snyder Cut, saying there's only so many ways you can polish a turd. Here's what I have for Snyder today.
You're still a hater. I don't care what you come. You are such. Let me tell you.
Slow
Let me
clap
tell
for
you.
you,
Let me
Snyder. You
let
made
me
it.
tell you. I thoroughly enjoyed my time watching this new Justice League. It's not
100%.
the first one. It was just the first one didn't even feel like a movie. It just
It
felt
didn't even
like
feel like a story.
a collection of scenes that it felt like it came from, which makes sense, like 3 to 4 different directors. Like the tones were all over the place. In the story, the Steppenwolf was just there. He was just generic. I would pay more money than I would pay to watch either Justice League movie to see a behind just a 10-minute behind the scenes of what happened, because
Yeah.
I need to know what happened with that first Justice League movie.
How did we get that? And then we got this 4 hour epic story that we got in 2021. I don't understand how that happens. I'm going to try really hard not to compare too much to the old one. That being said, God, it is so much fucking better than 2017. I don't understand how how probably WB producers would look at what they had. And again, to your point, there are things that are going to be different that probably didn't exist 4 years ago to pull from. But man, there was a much better Justice League movie sitting inside whatever that 4 hours worth of footage that he shot back then, that anything had to be better than what those producers decided to make an hour and 45 minutes 4 years
It was just a completely different movie. Like the
ago.
entire ending was completely different.
From beginning to end, the tone was different, the execution was different, CGI, lighting, sound. I saw that there was a completely new score written for this, which I know you pointed out early
I
on.
pointed that out. Even the music
The
was better.
music's different.
The
Yeah,
music, it was better. It was
yeah,
better.
yeah.
My least favorite character in the original Justice League was probably my favorite one in this one. Cyborg.
I
I
was going
love
to say, I
Cyborg.
assume you're talking about Cyborg.
I love Cyborg. Like it made sense. I actually cared about the dad and Cyborg's relationship. I understood that family dynamic. And even the Flash. What's incredible to me, Joey, is just what 5 to 8 minutes worth of additional footage can do for a story. Like just give 5 to 10 more minutes for the Flash, give 5 to 10 minutes for Cyborg, and immediately I'm in. I'm all in.
Yeah, and it blows my mind because I don't know if you've heard the stories about the actor for with Cyborg. He's had
Yeah.
issues back
Yep.
and forth with the production studio. It's crazy because it almost seems intentional how much they shot for Cyborg
Yeah.
and how much they cut. Again,
Yeah.
I've tried to block out my memories of the old movie that shall not be named anymore, but there was so much that I don't remember seeing 90% of the cyborg scenes that I saw in this cut in the old cut. And
You
those
know
are things
what's
that you should
yeah,
probably, without, it's not like he had his own movie. So you
right.
should probably include some contextual scenes around it. So to your point, Cyborg, I've heard Zack Snyder say, oh, he's the heart and soul of this cut. He really is. He's a huge part, almost, I mean, he's almost a bigger part than Superman.
That's
He's
what I was gonna say. This actually felt like his movie. You follow the tragedy with his family, you follow him really making sense of all his powers, and then you follow him all the way to the end where really he's the one, besides, Superman, he's the one that really saves the day for the most part.
yeah.
And so
I
he
mean,
really,
what they did with him in Flash to take them from just minor characters that are there for comedy purposes in the old movie, and now it actually gives them something to do and something that's pretty vital to the plot,
you
which
know,
was really fun
you
to see.
know, the crazy thing is, it makes sense though. Wonder Woman, they already fleshed her out or introduced her in Batman versus Superman,
Yeah.
right? They, again, Superman, Man of
He
Steel,
had her
Batman
solo
versus
movie.
Superreal, right? Like they introduced those characters already. What the problem with the original Justice League was, they treated Cyborg and the Flash like they had already had their own movies. And
Yeah,
it's like, no, they didn't. I don't know these characters. And
you
what
gotta
this
earn.
what this cut did, it fleshed them out, and it kind of even it leveled them all out as far as, just understanding their backstory, understanding their motivations, what's going on in their lives. Um, and so, for me, I think that was probably the strongest part, is just once they were fleshed out, it felt like a team.
Yeah.
It felt like a team, right? Um, and even Aquaman, I forgot all about Aquaman. 4-hour movie. They even did a much better job, I thought, of fleshing that character out. And the craziest thing is, you can tell, like some of the scenes, like I like the initial introduction to Aquaman. That scene, you could tell it's the same scene that was in the original movie,
Yep.
but it just felt so different. And I don't know if I can't put my finger on it. It felt different. It looked like it was filmed differently, but you could tell
It
it
just,
was.
I mean, it could be alternate angles. It could just be the because the other movie moves so fast. It could
Yeah,
just be the fact that maybe we sat in these scenes a little bit longer. A lot of the scenes were new, but even the scenes that were in this movie that were in the last one, it just it was let to breathe. You could
yeah.
actually sit in here with the characters, and we didn't have to do a quick cutaway.
And I think it just helped it immersed me into the experience, right? Like Justice League, it was so quick, from we're here, then we're here, then we're here. Like I know me and you were talking earlier about the fight on Themyscira,
Yeah.
and it felt extended, and I just felt much more immersed in that experience. And I think the other thing this movie did, and we talk about context, just the opening 5 minutes did a better job. Number one, I like the opening 5 minutes better than I like the entire first movie.
That is fair. That is fair.
But it just helped me understand, oh, okay, so Superman dying was really the thing that set off these chain of events, right? It was literally that single act that set off these chain of events. Um, and so, for me, I think just context, man. Just context is the word of the day.
So I know this is basically common sense, but what a difference character building and a coherent story can actually make, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that is by far again, just the basics of telling a story is the improvement in this. We could talk CGI all day. We could talk, different changes to the design of Steppenwolf. We could talk about, getting rid of all the red tint that were in the final battles to just make it a nice presentation here. But everything was done better to the point where it makes me kind of sad that we probably won't get to see these characters again because I would watch this 4-hour cut over almost rewatching any other movie that's in the DCEU aside from like Man of Steel and Wonder Woman. I could still watch those, but I don't really think I'd pick any other. I would rather watch 4 hours of this than 2 hours of almost anything else. And
You,
and
and,
again, that's
you
not an insult to the other movies. That's just a credit to Snyder to say man, you actually pulled off this 4 hours,
Yeah.
felt like a limited series and covered a lot.
I think this would have been much better off as a limited series.
Yeah,
I
I can
think
see
if it
that.
would have came out episodic, kind of how it was split in between. And by the way, I think where they split each one made a lot of sense.
Yeah, I love that. They were
I They
very
were very good where they cut it, and I think it probably would have you would have gotten like a WandaVision type experience, and I think it would have been better served that way. That's the one thing I will say is the 4 hour runtime is a long time.
it
It it
sure
it
is.
it felt like 4 hours.
Yeah,
Um, but again, the sad thing is that we are not going to see this. We're not going to see these characters anymore,
yeah.
most likely. Or I never say never, but
I mean, we never thought we first we didn't think the Snyder Cut was real, and two, once we did, we never thought we'd ever see it. So you never know. So everything about this felt like one unit, and
right,
that goes right down to the Justice League. It was a lot more fun to watch them. One, because they were more fun, but it had so much more building of the actual team itself. They got to learn how to use each other's powers, almost like what Marvel did, like in that first Avengers, part of the thrill of watching that movie was watching them figure out how to use their powers together.
right.
There was a lot more of that.
I've talked about this before. To me, what makes a superhero movie is the villain. If you don't have a good villain, the movie falls apart. And just the additions they made to the story with Steppenwolf, it made the story just 200 times better to
Yeah.
me, right? Like you understood his motivations. He fell out with Darkseid. He got to get back in his good graces. This is the only way that he could do that. And the mother boxes thing that was explained well. It made
God, it was
sense.
so much. It felt so much more like there was more at stake this time around, and it
Yeah,
wasn't just. Yes, there's still kind of corny plot devices, but when it's well done, they can become intimidating. And I actually, it was very tense when they started,
it,
towards the end and they started putting
yeah,
those things together. I'm like, what's going to happen?
yeah. It just made sense.
Yeah.
And I would joke around with the first Justice League movie. I would say it wasn't really a Justice League movie. It was really a Superman movie. It was just about that's what the whole movie was about. The whole movie was about we got to get Superman back so he can help save the day. This
That's a fantastic point. That is a
that's
hundred
that's
percent.
what it felt like. Just because it was so quick, like by the time you were 30 minutes into the movie, it was like, all right, we got to get Superman. How do we get Superman?
And that's what I and actually that's what I remembered. I know I forgot earlier what I was going to tell you. So I think I looked right around the hour and 50 minutes into it and thought, wow, we haven't even resurrected Superman yet. The other movie would have been over by now. But
Yes.
we are still building the story, we are still building the characters, and we are still earning that final payoff that we know that's going to come in the last 2 hours. So
Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool point that we had gotten so much fleshed out, and by the time we had finally set the scene, the other movie would have been over already. That's
Yeah.
how fastly paced and put together it was.
Yeah. And for me, this movie felt like a Justice League movie.
Yeah.
It felt like it, right? Like you saw them just even their attempt to get Cyborg and the Flash to come work with them. It was much more fleshed out. Like you saw the actual work they put in. It wasn't just like, all right, go get the Flash and he's just there. No, like there's actual work that needs to be put in, right? Like these things need to be vetted. We can't just go find Cyborg. Like he is a walking human information system. Like it
Which
doesn't.
I loved that scene. That first scene that
Yeah,
kind of whenever the father over the recording is
yeah,
explaining what he is,
yeah,
that entire scene is phenomenal.
yeah. And it just makes sense. Like, yeah, this is what I would expect this to look like. Like you're just gonna go find the Flash. He's the fastest man on earth. I don't think it's that simple. Like,
And
so
I gotta tell you, I loved it. Just the little pieces that make these heroes human. The little part where, yeah, it was cool to watch him, save Iris from the car wreck.
mhm,
but just the part of watching him steal the little hot dog in the
Yeah,
process so he could get that job at the dog store. That was such a great bit of character building because you just get to see this goofy little kid who just
yeah,
he has all this power, but all he wants is this job, working with dogs to get.
yeah. So, that was really good. Man, it was just all around. It is just mind blowing how every facet of this movie was just better
Yeah,
all around. There's nothing about the other movie that was better than this version. This movie made me like Ben Affleck as Batman. I
I
didn't
I
I
agree.
I didn't like him as Batman in
Yeah.
any of the other movies. So I like this movie. I really enjoyed it. Do I like it as much as say the Marvel Avengers movies? No, I don't.
And I felt for me it was weird because I didn't expect to have this reaction. Again, we talked about it. I didn't expect much from this movie. So there was a point, and I can't remember where in the movie, it was towards the end, I do know that, but I was thinking, wow, this is actually approaching Avengers type of
Yeah,
storytelling. Yeah, I don't think it quite got there, and that's not a put down. I mean, it's getting there. It was the studio and the creators of that and the way they decided to handle the DCEU didn't do the actors or the writers or the directors any credit by skipping a few steps and going
yeah,
straight to Justice League after one or two movies. And it's not a knock against them so much as it is just the overall plan behind things. But we almost got there
yeah,
in terms of getting to that MCU level of
yeah.
storytelling.
And I think what would have helped it get there again, the MCU just has the formula. Introducing all these characters in their own films, I think would have helped that. And that way we wouldn't have needed a 4-hour film. We could have gotten straight to the point immediately. Again, we talked about it with WandaVision. They don't need to introduce any. We know who they are.
Yeah.
Like just it's just the story for that particular thing. And so again, though, with what they did, took them 4 hours, but it was still good. I would rather a 4-hour story that everything is fleshed out than a 2-hour one where we take shortcuts.
Yeah.
And this recognized we haven't done a cyborg movie. We need to flesh this character out. We haven't done a Flash movie. We need to flesh this character out. We have, at that point in time, we hadn't done an Aquaman movie. Let's flesh that character out a little bit more. And they did that. So I loved it. I think sad we're probably not going to get any other team ups with these specific characters. Depending on how it goes, I don't necessarily know where it's going in the future. But and I know you loved it, so
But I
yeah,
still feel like it probably could have been cut to even 3.5 hours. I still think would have been able to do them justice, pun intended.